So I've been asked to speak on the topic called the supremely intelligent and creative designer. You all mentioned different subjects that you're studying here. Anybody doing design or into some aspects of, maybe in some part of your life you would have come across or you would have done something in your life which is creative and which is probably attractive, visually appealing. But here we are going to discuss something which happens all around in our lives, in every single aspect of our life, but often we don't pay attention to those things. And knowing about that and appreciating that can make a huge difference in our life. Maybe I'll start with a couple of examples and I'll talk about how this creation is so wonderful. Like, those of you who came to this festival in our temple, Ramachandra Vijay Utsav, we were talking about the sthiti, the state of living entity when he appreciates the complicated arrangement made in this world to ensure that we are functioning properly. And we will try to see it from the lens of science. So if you see very carefully, actually there's a Nobel laureate from MIT who has got a Nobel Prize for discovering this phenomenon where how the raw fruit, when it becomes ripened, what are the changes that it happens inside it? I forgot his name, maybe some Eric Hassler or something. He's still there. He was a student and then he did research. Now he's teaching. So his research subject was, all of us we've seen, let's say, the example of a raw mango. Raw mango, when it is raw, it looks green, right? And what is the color green is coming off because of what? Chlorophyll. Yeah. So from the science we know that when the seed in the fruit completely develops, then the state of ripening starts. So his study was it's not just about the change of color, it's also bringing the sweetness. How the sucrose or the starch is converting to sugar when at a particular state when the fruit is ripe. It's taking some raw material from the soil, there is sunshine which is falling, there is some water and oxygen and so on and so forth. There are not just change which is happening on the surface, but internally also. There are molecular transformation which is happening. And that was his subject of research for which he got a Nobel Prize. Isn't it fascinating that this thing happens around us? But we don't question that scientist did some research and he got a Nobel Prize for that, whatever he did. There's a beautiful phenomenon in this world where somebody has put this. How many of you know how to drive? How many of you put it in the auto mode, or what is that called? Is that auto mode? No, cruise mode. Right, so where it goes in a particular speed for without getting distracted, unless you try to press the brake or accelerator, right? Something like that. There is a creator who has created this world. When you put the seed in the soil, at the right time the soil fructifies, becomes a plant, grows, becomes a tree, and there is a right time when the fruit comes, and it remains raw for some time till it becomes ripe. And naturally it loosens up and it falls down with the juicy, succulent taste. In an auto mode, right? It happens everywhere. In a right time, you just put that and it happens. But we don't give any credit to that person who has done this. We give credit to a person who's doing research and finding out how the raw mango becomes ripe and what happens in that. Like that, if we look around, there are innumerable examples which says that our whole existence is dependent on somebody's compassion and mercy who doesn't charge anything for that. I'll give you a very simple example. I was a very ardent fan of science and I used to love and participate in science exhibitions where you do some models, and often those models will not work. You'll have some issues. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. You try to do something, you try to show how the solar model works and things like that, and some things will go wrong, and then you feel sad that you participated but you couldn't do it properly. But have you ever wondered, like we're all sitting here, and when we have, since the time I've started talking and you're listening, how many times you've blinked your eyes? You just blinked your eye, some do, right? How many times we blink? Has it ever happened that the two eyes, they don't blink simultaneously, and like this it happens? And if it happens, how much of confusion will be there? Right? From the beginning, from the time we have taken birth till the time we die, we blink our eyes so many times. But it is so perfect, so precise. Simultaneously we blink, and it happens perfectly. There is never a chance that it has happened, somebody's eyes blinked and then he didn't want it to blink and it blinked, unless deliberately somebody wants to give some indication and we blink one eye or whatever it is, isn't it? So that apart, there's another beautiful thing which happens, which is called the pattern recognition. The robotics competition that they happen, Sambhu was explaining me yesterday that the robot will catch and hold something, and now they're trying to switch or manipulate the object with this thing, with the hand of the robot. Pattern recognition is something which is now being used very commonly, and of course with AI and all things can happen. I was just recently hearing, I think in what's one of the news channel, one famous actress, there was a look-alike of her who was there, and they shot something inappropriate and it got viral. And she has told, I'm a woman, but I'm of power and I've got so many influence and I could handle this. But had it happened to someone who's a normal person, it would have been disastrous. We do, when we go for our visa or anything of those kind of things, we do our fingerprinting, there is a face recognition or the eyes, this thing which happens. So I'm talking about when I was a student, that was in a very rudimentary stage. It was just getting developed, the pattern recognition. But now if you see with the advent of science and technology, it has made a lot of advancement. Right? And we all take advantage and benefits of that. But see how beautifully this pattern recognition is there deep within in our body. Like, you're walking in a street, maybe, just around your WPI campus, and you're going around and you're seeing so many people are coming and you don't know them, then there is no response from your side. But all of a sudden you recognize this familiar face. Dhruvik, or is it, Himanik? Himanik. Okay, so Himanik. Or Manish. Hey, Manish! And not just the name, just seeing him, all the emotions that you attach with that person, everything comes in your mind. Probably last time you didn't have a good experience with him, so you don't want to have eye contact with him. You just want to avoid and go. Whatever it is, there is a pattern recognition which is happening automatically. I see a familiar face, I smile. I don't know someone, then probably I'm little this thing. How does it happen? It's so complicated and it happens so perfectly. Maybe sometimes we don't get the name, but seeing, I know this person. I can't forget this guy. That happens. Or for that matter, when the technology was not so developed, I don't know how many of you are familiar with, we used to have a camera with which we will have a roll and we will take photos and that will be washed and then developed, right? And those, the focusing is such a big challenge. It's not easy. But nowadays you have got so nice, wonderful mobiles, with that you can just focus, autofocus, zoom, and it is so helpful, right? But we are actually having our eyes which are set with this beautiful thing. I want to look at Siddharth, I'm focusing on him right away. I want to look somebody sitting in the back, automatically my eyes focus and the autofocus happens very naturally. Otherwise I have to do something, nothing. It's very natural. All these things are done by somebody who's a very intelligent creator. The body is actually a marvel which we don't realize. We eat nicely. Whatever comes to our mind, this is good, I should put it in my mouth. But how that food gets digested and how the energy is derived from that and how my body gets nourished is a mystery. As long as the body is working fine, everything is going perfectly all right, you don't value some small little things. But ask a person who is having some ailments or who's having some issues, chronic problems, how difficult, even if one small organ of our body doesn't function well properly. So it's actually, some people think that spirituality is a faith and science is fact-based and they are mutually exclusive, but it is not true. Science, if you have to define it, I was just trying to see some definition of science. Science, it says, is a systematic study of any branch of knowledge. I don't know how many of you are familiar with, but any ardent fan of physics here? Ardent. Okay. Okay, you can raise, that's fine. In physics, overall they say there are about 20 to 25 constants. Right? We have small g, 9.8 meter per second square, capital G, F equal to G m1 m2 by r square, and G is 6.67 something into 10 to the power minus whatever, there is one constant. PV is equal to nRT, that R 6 point something into 10 to the power 23. H is, what is that? E is equal to H nu, H is equal to Planck's constant. Like that, there are about 20 constants, 25 constants, and their value, the scientists say, if it goes down even by 0.01%, the whole situation will collapse. Because these things are acting so precisely, the gravity acts very, very precisely, we are taking so much of advantage. The other day, Chanchalpati Prabhu was giving that example, like, when we, sometimes, when we are in the flight, the pilot makes this announcement, we are cruising at 35,000 feet, and then, the temperature outside is minus 5 degrees Celsius, but we have maintained it at 30 degrees Celsius for your comfort. And you look from the window outside, you see that there is bright sunshine, and there are clouds, okay, and you wonder how there is bright sunshine is falling, but how it is the temperature is minus 5 degrees Celsius outside. But when you land, again you see that, again there is bright sunshine, and the temperature is 35 degrees Celsius. How does it happen? It's all because of the gravity. There is carbon dioxide which is there, which forms the level, which can absorb the heat, and it is maintaining that optimum temperature where we can live. It is not possible, the CO2 is not there. So like that, there are countless things. If you look around, it's just a matter of observation and see exactly how this complicated world has been designed just to facilitate or fulfill all our desires. There was a devotee family who was visiting from California. Their daughter-in-law is Russian, and she had a child, and they wanted me to talk to her and explain some complicated questions that the young child has. So see, basically they wanted her to get introduced to something about spirituality. So I was talking to her and I was telling her that, if somebody in your life is giving you something very attractive, a nice gift, what do you tell him or her? She said, we will say thank you. And what if, you just walk into somebody's house and you see something very attractive and you steal or you take it away without telling anything? What do you call him or her? She told, it's bad manners. Like that, in this life, for example, there was a phone call or something, he left right now. So if he doesn't pay the mobile bill, this thing will be disconnected. There's no excuse for that. Utilities, all this electricity bill and all, if it is not paid by the institute, we will sit here in darkness. So, but there are so many facilities which are given to us, we don't pay anything for them. What spirituality does is, it widens our consciousness, it makes it more evolved, where we become aware of another existence, or the facilities which we are receiving, we become cognizant of. And we become thankful to that. And we become aware of it. It's not just about being cognizant of somebody who's a creator, who's creating this world. It is also about a very significant thing which happens in all our lives. And when it happens, we always struggle, or we feel, what is the next thing I should do? And how can I tackle this thing? That is when some difficulties or reversals come in our lives. So when those difficulties or reversals come, there is nobody in this world who can say that I'm not going through. Yesterday we were having a session at MIT, and the session was about how yoga can help you overcome the stress of your life. So when I asked them, what do you do when you get stressed out? Many of them said, we do some binge watching, we go for a walk, we do all kinds of some shopping, different answers they give. But do you think really that helps, reduce the stress? Time being, yes. The difference between the modern solution and the Vedic solution is, modern solution is always symptomatic. For example, you go to a modern doctor or someone, you have some fever, and you go and tell them that you have a fever. They'll give you a pill which will bring down your fever. Good enough. I mean, it will work. Your fever will come down. But if you go to another branch of Vedas called Ayurveda, and if you go and tell them that you have got fever, they will try to find out the root cause of why you are having fever, and they will not do a symptomatic treatment. They will go to the root cause and find the root, and then they'll treat. The root cause of stress, which all of us we undergo in this material world, is because of uncontrolled mind. And if you don't do anything about your mind, and if you think that I'll just do some symptomatic relief, then it comes back. So the science of how do we control our mind, the science of we are making so much of progress outwardly, we are making so much of progress in technology and science. By the way, the technology, because there is a consistency and there is a pattern, there are these constants, technology is taking advantage of this, and the scientific phenomenon which are happening repeatedly, which can be put it in some kind of equations, they're taking advantage and making different equipments. That's how the science and technology work. But the science of mind, that is also a science, is unknown to people. And since this is unknown, they struggle in their day-to-day life, and they try to bring terms to those situations. Sometimes they get depressed, sometimes they commit suicide, sometimes they do something which is so sad. But fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately because this knowledge is available, unfortunately because we are not aware and we are not taking advantage of this, we are struggling in our day-to-day life. Before I give you some more details, I just want to quote something. I was just trying to search one reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a very glorified devotee, a lady by name Kunti. She offers some beautiful prayers when Krishna was about to leave. And one of the prayers that she offers is called Vishad Mahagne Purushada Darshanat. Vishad Mahagne Purushada Darshanat. So imagine if a child has to go through some difficulties, physical, emotional, financial, whatever it is, the pain that the child experiences, the mother or father experiences even more intense pain, even though they may not go through that. Just thinking about the well-being of their child. Kunti Maharani, thinking about the pain or the miseries that their children are going through, is lamenting. Vishad. Actually, Bhima was poisoned. Vishad Mahagne. They were put into the lakh house which was put on fire. Vishad Mahagne Purushada. There was a man-eater with whom Bhima had to fight. Asat Sabhaya. There was an inglorious assembly where Draupadi was trying to be destroyed. And there was a battle of Kurukshetra where so many warriors were there. And if that is not enough, towards the end, the son of Drona, Droni Astratas Chas Hare Virakshata, he shot an arrow to kill the last hair in the womb of Uttara, Aswathama. So Kunti Maharani is lamenting so much. But she's telling that all these difficulties and reversals when they came in my life, I'm very grateful to that because that made me spiritual. Hare Virakshita. And even in the next prayer, she is telling, Vibhada Santu Tasasvat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Apunar Bhavadarshana. So even if there are this, he's not asking that let this difficulties come. He's saying let these calamities come again and again. Mind you, this is not difficulties. It's not some difficulty. Calamities are like Vipada. Let them come again and again. Because if I'm placed in that spiritual platform, if I become aware of another existence of my life, which I'm not aware of right now, then I can operate from that platform and handle these disturbances and difficulties in a much better way. In fact, that becomes an impetus for knowing about my spiritual existence, who the Lord is, what is the rationale behind it, and so on and so forth. So, the spiritual science which I am talking about is coming from the Vedas. The root word for Vedas is Vid, which means to know, and Bhagavad Gita is the Vedanta, the end of Vedic knowledge. And this Vedanta, if we have access to this, if we understand this, we can actually manipulate and we can actually maneuver in our journey of life very nicely and very comfortably. There is a verse in Bhagavad Gita which gives an analogy of how the Supreme Lord is the invisible. See, he was mentioning invisible hand. Actually, I don't have any invisible hand in Origins Club, but what in introduction he was giving, there is an invisible hand of the Lord behind every single thing. And the example which is given is like that of a necklace. Right? Somebody who's wearing a necklace, right? What we see and appreciate is the form, the texture, the symmetry, and so on and so forth. But what we don't see or what we don't realize is there is an invisible thread which is holding those those pearls or those things together, and that invisible thread is the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord is present in every single aspect of our life, in every minute aspect of our life. It's because of our ignorance. It's because of ignorance of our reality. All the reality that we know is that we perceive through our senses. Now, say, imagine if there is a window or something from this room and you see something from outside, what's going on through that window. You see somebody is passing by. Once that person has passed through that window, you don't know what happened to that man, whether he's there behind or whether he went somewhere else or something. You don't have complete understanding. Similarly, the knowledge that we are gathering through our senses, let's say I see a person, I'm getting some knowledge about that person, but that is a subset of the reality of that person, who that person is. It's not the complete knowledge about it. So I have got a very limitation of my knowledge which is derived from my senses, which includes my eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch. The Vedic scriptures, including the modern scientists, they are saying actually what we are trying to research, what we are trying to do is so finite and so limited. How many of you have heard about one scientist by name Lisa Randall? She's from Harvard University. You can do a search in Google and see some videos of hers. She talks about how there are inherent limitations of all the living entities. Like an ant, it doesn't have perception about 2 dimensions of 3 dimensions. It only knows about 2 dimensions. Suppose it is going in this table, it knows that there is only x and y axis, and then it goes and then probably goes down, and then again it changes the plane, and it's only aware of x and y axis. Whereas, evolved human beings like us, mammals, we know about the 3 dimensions. But she is questioning, what if, there is another dimension which we are not aware of? How can we be so certain that whatever we know is enough to figure out everything in this world? Carl Sagan also puts this question in the foreword that is written in the Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. In the foreword of that book, Carl Sagan says, what if there is an inherent limitation of our cognitive ability? How can we be so sure that whatever we know is enough? Right? So actually there is something which is beyond our material senses or the perception that we can derive from our senses. And that something which is beyond are very less talked about, and what is the reason why those things are existing, how this has come about, nobody questions, but these are some of the very beginning and fundamental subject matter of spirituality. To give you, to conclude this with the right perspective, the spiritual knowledge, there are 4 aspects. They are called the Chatushtaya, or the 4 important things if one wants to know. And those 4 Chatushtaya, or the 4 important aspects of Vedic knowledge, the first one is called Adhikari. You are a student of, say, robotics, and he is a student of material science. He puts some material science and engineering book in front of you and asks you to read. What's the use for me? I don't care. What do you study there? I don't know. Or vice versa. If you put something in front of him and you ask him to read something related to robotics, he may not be interested. So who is the real person who should read this book? Who is the Adhikari? Who has got the right to read this book? And there it is mentioned, a person who's inquisitive, who has got Sushrusha, who has got little faith, who's got little inquiry inside him. He's the right Adhikari. Doesn't matter where he's from, whether he's from the country, the nationalities, the age, they don't make any difference. It's that inquiry. I need to figure it out. What is happening? What is happening around me? I am seeking always happiness, but why I am put into some kind of distress and miseries in my life without asking, without seeking? Such questions, such inquiry, or what is the cause of all causes? Where does it start? Who's the cause of all causes? And that search, when somebody develops, that is actually the sign of someone who's recipient or who's ready to receive the spiritual knowledge. So adhikari is the first thing. Then what is the vishaya? What are the subject matter of, like if I ask you what is the subject matter of material science, you will say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are the subject matter of material science. What is the subject matter of spiritual science? The subject matter of spiritual science are of 5 types. One is Ishvara, one is Jiva, one is Kala, one is Prakriti, and the 5th one is Karma. Ishvara, the root word Ishvara, comes from the Ish dhatu, which means who's the controller. Say for example, you are working in a robotics, you are working on a model, whatever you are developing, you have full control over that, right? Similarly, the creator of this universe who has created this world has got complete control, and that person is called Ishvara. We may use that interchangeably with some other words like Hari, Brahman, or Krishna, and so on and so forth, but each of those words have very specific meaning. Actually, Sanskrit language is such a refined language where there is no word which is used just randomly. Sometimes, in Hindi, just to give you an example, we ask these questions, Khana vana ho gaya? Khana to theek hai, vana kya hai? Right? So in Sanskrit, there is no such thing that they use, okay, now what to do, it's not getting complete, it's not falling in the right meter, let's add something. No, it's very precise, very technically correct. So Ishvara, Hari means who takes away all our sinful activities. Krishna, who's all attractive. Like that, there are different words. So there is Ishvara, then there is Jiva. Jiva is living entity, and by the way, living entities are all of us. Not just all of us, every single living entity in this, which includes Thavara and Jangama, which may be stationary, like Jagdish Chandra Bose got a Nobel Prize for saying that there is life in plants or trees which are stationary. Whether you are stationary or whether you are moving, all of us, we are cognizant, sentient, we are conscious. When we are different from this table which doesn't have any feelings, any emotions, any cognizance. The difference is the soul which we are, that the moment that soul leaves the body, the covering that we have and this table, there is no difference. So that is the Jiva. Ishvara, Jiva, and then Kala. Kala, time is another very interesting facet which hardly we pay attention and we often ignore. Even science doesn't talk much about it. So we say, what is the time? What time our session started? We said it's at 7 p.m. So we said that's what time is. But really that's what time is? Time is eternal. It's always present. We give for our understanding a definition or division of past, present, and future. Like the space, which is always all pervading, but we have built these rooms, these walls, and we say that this space belongs to me, this house is mine. But the space is there all throughout. So time is like that. And Krishna says, actually there is accurate definition of time given in the Vedic scriptures. Think for a while. Can you think of a time when time was not existing? Or probably that is the time when time started to exist. You can't think of. We've all been there, and we took birth at some point in time. Then we are continuously, we are living, and then it comes to an end at a particular time. But we think that is the end of time or an end of our life in this world. But it is not true. The Vedic scriptures say that time is cyclic. For example, Monday comes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then again Monday comes, right? Or the months, they come, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Again January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So the time is cyclic, right? So the time, it comes in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, then again Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, like this it goes. Brahma, in one day of his life, there are 1,000 such Divya Yugas comes. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, 1,000 times it comes. That is one day of Brahma. You multiply that with 30, that is 30 days is 1 month. Multiply that with 12, that is 1 year of Brahma. And multiply that with 100, that is the duration of Brahma's life. And then after that, there is complete dissolution. So there is a fascinating thing about time which we are not aware. So it's a different dimension altogether which defines our existence. Ishvara, Jiva, Kala, and Prakriti. Prakriti is material nature, matter. Anything that we see around us, it's a different permutation combination of matter, and which we are studying. You study for 15 years, 20 years. You go to different universities. Like all of you have come from India, many of you, and then you spend money and you are learning. All that you are learning is about matter. about different aspects of matter which is outside of us. It's also an energy of the Lord, and it exists, but it is not conscience. It's not. There is no emotions. There is no feeling. If I keep this phone on this, the table is not going to protest. If I keep some tons of load on this, the table cannot protest. But if Prasanna was carrying that prasadam in his hand, he's telling it's heavy, Prabhu. So we feel it, right? You bring some sharp object because we are conscious, and there is a difference between this matter and spirit. So Ishvara, there is Jiva, there is Kala, there is Prakriti, and then there is Karma. Karma is the fifth factor, which many of us may not know, may not agree. It is not like American karma, Indian karma, Brahmana karma, Kshatriya karma. It's not like that. Karma is universally applicable, whether you accept or you don't accept. Like, for example, somebody may say that I don't believe in gravity. I don't care whether gravity exists or don't exist. So you don't care, that's fine. You walk on this. We ask somebody to walk. He walks and then comes to the edge. And then he says, I don't believe in gravity, and he puts one step, he'll fall down. Because gravity acts whether we like or not, whether we believe or not. Like that, there are laws of karma which act, which govern. Every single thought, every single activity that we do has a reaction for that. Sometimes some of the actions that we do, so there are different types of karma. There is sanchit karma, there is prarabdha karma, there is aprarabdha karma. Sometimes some big thing you do and you get a small reaction, but sometimes some small action also can give us a very heavy reaction. So there's a science of that which is also unknown to modern science, and that's called the karma, which is given in the Vedic scriptures. So these are the 5 subject matters. So I told there are 4 chatusthaya. The first one was who's the adhikari. The second one is vishaya. Third one is prayojana. What is the goal of studying this? What's the big deal about it? Well, the big deal about it is that when you study this, there are 2 things guaranteed which will happen. First thing is that you will get peace. Most of us, we think that we will get peace when we have lots of money. But money is there outside here, and peace is there here, right here inside your mind. You can't put those money inside and get happiness and peace. And Bhagavad Gita says, Gyantva mam santi marchati. If you know this knowledge, you'll become peaceful. Second thing that will happen is, which I told you at the beginning, the root cause of our stress is uncontrolled mind. You will learn how you can control your own mind. The mechanism, the way the Lord has developed us, has designed this, our inner faculty is our mind, which is there constantly with us. How do we deal with it? What is it that we should do? So it says, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chakriyate. That is a process by which you can control your mind. So these are some of the prayojanas, the goal, objective of this. And the last one is called sambandha. Sambandha means each one of us, apart from having different relationships with our friends and relatives and our family members, we also have a relationship with the Lord. Also, the words that we are using in the scriptures has a relationship with the meaning. And that knowledge that is required to know the relationship between knowledge, relationship between the word and the meaning comes by this sambandha. To put it little, in a manner that we can understand, let's say, I tell you mango. And imagine somebody who has never had mango in his life, and I have to give him a description of what mango looks like. I'll tell him it's a ripened fruit. When it becomes ripe, it will be yellowish in color, be juicy, succulent, sweet. There'll be a big seed which you have to throw it out, and then you can take it. The skin may not be sweet; it will be bitter. There cannot be a random this thing that sometimes the skin might be sweet and the inside thing will be bitter. Never happens. But when you describe this, somebody who is not known, he gets a picture of it. But actually, when he sees that, and when he puts that in his mouth, he gets it from a theoretical knowledge. He gets a practical knowledge. So, like that, in Sanskrit language, each word has a different meaning. If I ask what is the meaning of Atma, and you give a synonym of that, that's just a synonym. But what does Atma mean? The word Atma refers to a meaning. And that meaning needs to be known, and if the meaning is known through the knowledge, then it makes sense. So that is the sambandha. So these 4 things the Vedic scriptures talk about, and with these 4 things when we read and when we access this, we understand the hand of the Lord behind every single thing, like that invisible thread which is sustaining these pearls together in the necklace. Like that, we can perceive the presence of the Lord. And when we perceive the presence of the Lord, we become cognizant of our spiritual reality. We can handle these material disturbances in a much better way. That's the goal and objective of this. So, as long as we are limited and we don't have proper development of our consciousness, we are ignorant of the spiritual reality, we feel it's all happening by chance. By chance, things are happening. By chance, I'm growing. By chance, I've been given certain facilities to enjoy. I should enjoy. As our consciousness expands, evolves, we become cognizant and aware of another reality. Not just of our own life, also about somebody who's giving unlimitedly, compassionately, without asking anything in return. And that brings a kind of revolution in our lives. So I've come to 7:35. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
So Krishna says that you need to surrender to me and He'll take care of everything else. And even though we know that when difficult situations arise, we should just surrender and keep our faith intact. So my question is, even though we are human, sometimes it's difficult to maintain that faith. How can we keep our faith intact during difficult times?
Okay. So where does the faith come from? I'm not asking. Okay, you want to answer? You're trying. Okay. Where does the faith come from? Like, how do you get an implicit faith? Like, for example, when you entered into this room and when you sat on the chair, did you do a testing that whether the chair can take your load or not? You had implicit faith that it'll work. When we board the flight, right? Usually the pilots, they have to do alcohol, this thing that they have not been under the influence of some substance and they've slept well and all. Do we go and ask for that certificate before we board the flight? Or do we see whether he has been given a proper somebody has approved him as a pilot to operate the flight? We go implicitly, we put some faith and we sit in that and we expect that the person is going to take me to the destination that I have purchased my ticket for. There is no this thing in our mind. We are assuming certain things. Did we do any this thing that whether the roof will collapse by the time I finish my this thing, what will happen? We don't have those kind of fears. Why we are not having those kind of fears in those things? Because there is a certain system or a pattern that there are certain established airlines. If they are flying, they have taken care of some due diligence and it'll work. This is what is every single action in our life that we do. There is a faith behind that. Those faith is very subtle, but it is there. Otherwise, you would not do. You'll be, if you're scared of doing something, if somebody has told you no, don't go inside. There is. I've heard from someone that the structure is not very this thing. You will be hesitant to even come and you'll put your steps very carefully and you'll go and sit in one place. What happens is when it comes to spirituality, because we don't have enough knowledge. And we don't have enough knowledge, we have heard something here and there. And since our knowledge is not adequate, our faith is also incomplete or it fluctuates. So what it requires is, you don't need to put blind faith on anything in life. But you need to have your faith which is rational, pragmatic, and there is some intelligent thought which has gone behind before you put the faith. How does it work? So when you start seeing some things which is making sense in your life, right? When you see that, like for example, when Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord, he begins to speak by saying that there is a distinction between your body and the owner of the body. Like probably in your previous session in your Jigyasa, you would have seen that how it stands the test of time, place and circumstances. There is not anybody in this room who can say that I just took birth as a 16-year-old boy or girl. I came out and I walked and just jumped and ran away. We all took birth like the same way. And we all grew up. None of us, grew with beard and mustache. Like he's having some little bit. None. We didn't have so much of hair, nothing. And now it has changed. And it doesn't happen only in past. It is future. God knows what will happen. No, it all remains the same. So when we see certain things in a very scientific manner, our faith increases. How do you develop that faith more? So you have to know more. You need to have more knowledge about it. When you see that it is no more, it's not just a theoretical concept. You are seeing that how it is making sense to your life, how it is relevant, and when you hear it from proper source, then your faith increases. And when that faith increases and comes to, so it begins with a process called Adau Shraddha Atha Sadhu Sangha. So you have a little faith which develops, then you associate with devotees who are trying to lead their life based on this transcendental knowledge. So when you associate with the devotees, faith is a currency that we use to transact in our dealings in life. Everything that we do, somehow or other, we develop some faith. You came here because you heard probably somewhere, or you did some research that WPI is a good institute for your data science or robotics or material science, and that's how you put your faith on this and you came here. So like that, when you associate with devotees who are practicing or trying to mold their life based on the instructions which are given in this Vedic scriptures or the Vedanta, you also learn to do something like that. Let me also try to do this little by little. Adho Shraddha Atha Sadhu Sangha Tatha Bhajana Kriya. Then you start following some rules and regulations which are given. Then you see those things making even more sense. Then Anartha Nipra. Then there are so many unwanted things which we have been holding dear to our lives, which we think are very important. We let go of those. Then the faith becomes steady. Then you won't waver that, oh, now what will happen? Now I'm dabbling on two things. I don't want to give it up, and what will I'm not. That will not come. It's like the plant or the sapling when it has just fructified from the seed. When the roots are tender, anybody can trample it. But when it has become a strong tree with deep roots, you shake it, your storm comes, nothing is going to happen. Like that, when the faith grows, when you have the roots have gone deeper in this, when you understand this completely, then it becomes unshakable. So it's a process, it takes time, and it depends on us, how much intent, how much strong desire, and how much I want to follow it sincerely. Then I can develop this. Yes, Ashish.
So one who is a believer and who has a faith in God, like it is a part of God, then like every opportunity we come across, shall we sometimes we get challenged with the Maya at the same time. So shall we keep a faith that God has a plan for me, or shall I just be do what I feel is right and believe that, have faith that whatever I am doing, God is still on my back?
So God is always there with us, irrespective of whether we like or we don't like, irrespective of whether we are theist, atheist. It's not like somebody who's atheist, agnostic, and who doesn't believe in the existence of God. The God stops all the supplies for him. Doesn't he? Allows, knowingly, even if the person is not completely aware of the existence of the Lord or is unaware of the existence of his own self, still the Lord gives everything freely. Somebody who's a thief, somebody who's doing something, some terrorist or gross violent acts or whatever it is, Lord never stops, never ceases to give whatever the necessities are. So then why he does that, and how do I know that it's all plan of the Lord? Well, what the Lord is doing is, he is actually facilitating all our desires that we have inside our heart. I want to enjoy. I feel that if I kill someone, or if I'm just giving a crude example, or I do something wrong, I'll be happy, and the Lord facilitates that. Ultimately, the Lord respects the free will of the jiva to the highest point. Unless and until the jiva realizes that all the actions that I'm doing independent of Krishna is creating more and more troubles for me, let me now go back to him. He allows, he facilitates, not just in this life, even lifetime after lifetime, until we realize that this birth, death, old age and disease is a real problem, real misery. Why I have to go through this? So that dawning of that knowledge, it takes some time to come. And the Lord waits patiently, fulfilling all the desires of the jiva, until he comes to this conclusion on his own, voluntarily, that what you call the baap re baap, no more this material life. Till that time the Lord is allowing. So it's like I was giving that example that other day, right? So some of you are sitting here and imagine somebody is thinking of when this will get over and to go and play some tennis, or somebody is watching in his phone, somebody is doing something else, is looking at somebody else and doing something. All these things can happen, and there is probably one person, maybe the person who's sitting in the front, is nodding and is listening carefully and attentively. Even though I'm looking at all those people, what's going on, I'll have some special this thing for this person because he's reciprocating with me. The Lord waits for that reciprocation. It's the love between the Lord and the Jiva is a voluntary one. And I realize, oh my Lord. See, you think of an example, like in your own life, there is only one person, maybe there are two, even your parents, who give everything that you need for, let's say, 20-25 years of your life, food, clothing, shelter, not ask for any money. It's not like when you become 20, they come with a bill, say, this is you stayed for 20 years in our house, this is the bill for your accommodation, for food, and for this thing. They don't do that. Like that, the Lord also is giving every single thing needed for our existence. We're sitting and breathing oxygen here. Where is it coming from? I spoke about those constants, like the physics, the constants. How did it arrive in that number? And if there is slight this thing in that, we can't survive here. No gravity will be floating somewhere. I'll catch you and hold you, and then I'll also fly in. What will happen? Like, it's chaos. So when we become cognizant of the existence of a Supreme Lord, who's Swarat, who's aware what's going on in your life, is there in your heart, is there in my heart, is there in everybody's heart. And then the reciprocation starts. As long as we are neutral, as long as we don't care, as long as we have our own priorities and agenda in life, the Lord also remains like that. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tatheva bhajamya. As you come closer to me, I'll reciprocate. You feel I don't need anything, I'm good without God. I'm also good without you. I mean, he doesn't say, he feels, poor fellow, how much he's going to suffer. He has that compassion, but he doesn't want to impose that on you. Somebody is doing something, and like I was giving that example, somebody is doing something. I can't say, hey, why are you doing that? Please pay attention to me. I can't do that. So, when the Jiva becomes ready in his life, when he becomes cognizant of the presence of someone who's beyond him, who's giving all the facilities, and with whom he has a relationship, our Supreme Father, then the Lord reciprocates. And as long as that has not happened, the Jiva has got his own desires to fulfill, the Lord facilitates. Any other questions?
Suppose, like, as you said, when you come to the conclusion and you realize you like don't take birth and like you exit the cycle, but then for someone who hasn't realized it yet and he, like, in his next life he won't remember what happened in this life, so how would he come to the conclusion that this is not what I want?
So it takes time. So it's an evolution of our consciousness. That's why Krishna says it. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyante. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudhava. Right now what we think, I'm in control of my own life. I've got money, I'm intelligent, and I can do whatever I want with my life. Who cares? Where is the God? I can't see him. But what the scriptures are saying? No, you need to develop certain knowledge, you need to develop some training by which you can see. It's not like the example of Prahlad. Like, he was able to see the Lord and perceive everywhere. Whereas Hiranyakashipu, his own father, when the Lord appeared in front of him, also he is not able to recognize the existence. Difference is they're living in the same family, blood related, but one is having a different vision based on the training, another one doesn't have. So it doesn't matter whether one person is not able to realize in this life or next life. It takes sometimes many lifetimes. It has taken a lot of times for us also to come to a state where we've got this human form of life And when we have become little fortunate to come in touch with the spiritual knowledge which is left behind by the Lord to take advantage of. Still it is up to us. How much I want to know, how much I don't want to. So in this journey, everyone is unique. Everyone's journey is unique. Everyone takes its own path. But an intelligent person is one who comes to the conclusion and takes it seriously and finishes the journey. Doesn't delay. That's why the words of Kathopanishad is arise and awake. What is that? Uttishta Jagrata Praptavaran. Uttishta Jagrata. Come to a state of wakefulness. Don't remain in a dormant sleeping state. Use your intelligence. See things properly. Don't act like as if I don't know. It's okay. Oh, kya hoga? Oh, kitne log, kaun aisa hota hai? No, be intelligent. Act intelligent. Buddhi is something which the Lord stresses a lot in Bhagavad Gita. So when we act intelligently, then you can see what is the ultimately beneficial thing for me, and you'll act as per that. But when you cover that deliberately, when you want to cover it, no, rahega life aisa rahega. So the word which is used in the scriptures is prayers and shreyas, right? Prayers which is giving me instant gratification. Instantly I'm feeling happy in this. I go and play, I watch something, I indulge in something, it is giving me happiness. So I'm not bothered about what's going to happen in future. That's prayers, very short-sightedness. Shreyas is something which is ultimately beneficial for me, which is long-term beneficial. Imagine I'm pre-diabetic, I've got sugar, and you keep some 10 sweets in front of me. I want to jump and eat, devour. And I am not able to resist, I'm having it, but it's not good for me. Ultimately, that thing which may look little difficult at the beginning, it becomes pleasant at the end. If I see the end, what is ultimately beneficial. So scriptural or the spiritual knowledge is all about shreyas. Why do I want to get myself entangled in this material world by some desires which I don't have full control, which I know for sure is not good for me, yet I follow their dictation. Why should I do that? That kind of questioning comes when your intelligence is sharp. Otherwise, most of us, we just follow. These impressions are stored. Something I like, something I don't like. There is a raga and there is dvesha. This is good for me because you are appreciating me, you are a nice person. He is not because he is not looking at me. So I have an aversion for him. So like this, I have got these impressions, and these impressions are so strong and deep-rooted, they keep popping up with new desires. I have a strong this thing for something, I'll do that impulsively. That's why the scriptures, they refine our nature. Prakriti becomes Samskriti. Refinement comes. Like a glass of water which is there. There are 3 ways this can be refined. First is if there is some dirt in this, you purify that. So purification of our existence. Then you want to make it more tastier, you add some lemon, you add some sugar and something, you are enhancing the flavor. You are enhancing the taste or the color of that thing. Then you see if there is something which is missing, maybe minerals are less or something, you add some of those things. So 3 ways our Prakriti becomes refined and becomes Samskriti by the help of spiritual knowledge, where the impurities are removed as an enhancement in terms of good values and also the fulfillment of things that we lack. Then we become the better version of ourselves. So in this whole evolution of life, in the whole evolution of this journey, when we become completely refined, then we realize there is nothing else in this world other than the Lord. Then we go back. Does that make sense?
I had one question. So when you want to go from like one state to another state, and there are like lot of circumstances and things that should come together to make that happen. So like for example, I can like give one example is that one student wants to get a job and he's on a visa in the US. Pretty much it's like the last day for his like whatever the visa status is. Either he has to figure out the job or he has to leave the country. And at that point in time, suddenly he gets like a LinkedIn message out of nowhere from a person asking him to apply for a job. That person takes the risk, applies for the job and gets the offer. There were a lot of circumstances that played a role in that happening, because there could have been a lot of negative events that could have followed, and that person could have to leave because many other people who were at that spot had to leave, and many other people who were not at that spot had already figured out a job. So when this event happens with you, is there like a prescribed thing in Vedas about how you should reciprocate to the person who came as the representative of the god and sent you the LinkedIn message to figure out a job, and how you should reciprocate to the god who when he gave you that opportunity so that you can continue with whatever your plan was or whatever the god's plan was? Like, what's the prescribed process to reciprocate to both the representative and the god in that process?
You see, the gratitude is something which we need to develop irrespective of whether we get the job or not. You know, there was one man who was a mendicant, and he was sobbing and lamenting, I don't have anything in life, I'm so poor, why the Lord is not doing anything with me, I'm just good for nothing, not able to earn money, and I'm living so in a poverty-stricken way. Is there something the Lord should do? One sage took him to one place, and he asked him, this man wants to donate 2 of his eyes. Can you pluck his eyes? And in return, you will get some, whatever, $1 million. I don't know, whatever, $50,000. No, I don't want to give up my eyes. Who told that I'm going to give my eyes? Like that, he told about different parts of his body, kidney, liver, this, that, and all. Actually, we should be grateful for every single moment of our life existence. So many things the Lord has given us. It's it's like a criminal this thing to not be grateful for so many things that we are enjoying. We are blessed with. We always look for things which we don't have, and we blame the Lord for that. We blame some people around us. Bad luck, this person, that person. If nothing else works, Bhagavan, why me? Like that kind of a thing we do. Actually, the Lord is the most compassionate friend of ours. Most is the only person. You may have some friends who are close to you. They may evolve, they may change. Your friendship with them also may change. It can go through some tipping points. The relationship may become sour or something. God is always there. That understanding, it requires some kind of deliberation and seeing through the lens of spiritual knowledge. Then the Lord is always there in our heart. So the question that when you get a job like that, whether you get a job or not, you should always be grateful to the Lord, and remember that even in difficult times, the Lord is always there. You may not get material success, and we feel so morose, sad. I was trying, kitna try kiya, ye kiya, uske baad ye nahi mila. But only when you look back in your life, you see that there is a reason why that thing has happened. In fact, the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishada means lamentation. But it is also yoga. People talk about yoga. When they talk about yoga, they think of some postures and pranayama, some breathing exercises. Yoga is a process of reuniting with the Lord. Lamentation can be a means of connecting your relationship with the Lord. There is a reason sometimes, some difficulties we go through in life, that becomes an impetus for doing some spiritual inquiry. That becomes an impetus for an ultimate good thing. Most of the people who have taken up to this path of spirituality, I would say that somewhere or other there is an impetus in the form of some reversals or difficulties in life. So sometimes those situations when they come, we don't see that. We don't see the hand of the Lord. We blame everybody, including the Lord. Why did you put me in this situation? But when you have this knowledge, you feel there is a reason this has happened. My Lord knows what is good for me. Let me go through this and grow in life. Otherwise, it is difficult. When you don't have that vision, most people, what they do? To forget that sorrow or misery or lamentation, they go and use take to some easy this thing by drinking alcohol or something to forget that. Does it really go? It doesn't. When you come back to your reality, it again hits you harder. So just developing a perspective, a wider knowledge which we are not aware of. Right now our knowledge is limited to our material this thing. I feel that I have got certain abilities and I deserve certain results based on those abilities because I have endeavored for it. There are things which are beyond our this thing, which happens. Hard work is not directly proportional to result, by the way. It is one of the 5 factors which Krishna mentions. So there is something else also. Otherwise, everybody who's working hard, they would have always gotten their goals. But it doesn't happen. Every one of us in some way or other, we see that. So acknowledging, becoming cognizant of this, being aware of it, makes us more, I would say, equipoised in life. One is, to express gratitude for the immediate person who came in your life, but that immediate person came in your life because of the arrangement of the Lord. And if it doesn't happen also, that's also a plan of the Lord. I have to accept it. When you accept it and you go, and you understand there is a reason that the Lord has put, maybe, because of those difficulties that you are going through, you will work hard, you will study more, or you will develop more skills, and you will end up getting a better job, which will happen later on. We don't see that when that happens, but when we look back, we can see. There was a reason it was there in my life. So the Lord always sees from our Shreyas point of view. He sees for spiritually what is good for this man. Sometimes some things are not really good for us. It is meant to create more difficulties and more miseries. So a devotee develops that kind of a vision, that my Lord is always merciful on me. He's keeping me in always, He knows what's the best thing for me and He's keeping me in that thing. It's we who have got our own independent plans and desires, and we expect certain things to happen in a particular way. When that doesn't happen, we become antagonist, we become agnostic, we start blaming the whole thing, fatalist, all kinds of things. So it's all, the root cause of this is ajnana, ignorance about our own self, ignorance about the swa, and ignorance about the Lord, and ignorance about the material world, which gives us a perspective which is incomplete. Not like it is wrong, but it is incomplete. So when you have that complete knowledge, things become very different. Does it make sense, Ron?
Yes, yes.